Okay, hi, it's Paul Green from the business community, doing another one of our regular Spotlight on interviews. And today I'm joined by Louise from Lovely Evolution. Hi, Louise.
Hi, thank you for having me.
That's all right. I'm going to call you ML from now on because Louise is a bit of a mouthful for me. For those people that don't know you, do you just want to let people know who you are and what you do?
Okay, I'm a branding design specialist who happens to also work with Canva. So it means that I can do all sorts of logo design, rebranding, but also I do design one-to-one using Canva and have various training options for, small businesses and those that use Canva and want to use it better and learn how to, bring in that branding and design element to what they're doing.
Okay, excellent. So the intention of these little sessions is just to find out a little bit more about you, what makes you tick, how you became to where you are today. So the first question to you is, what's been your business journey? Because you've been doing this for a number of years. So how did Lovely Evolution come about?
So it started back in 2008 when I was getting married. I've been a designer for many years. I studied it. And so I was working a very kind of corporate based job in London. So I was doing kind of a lot of annual reports and design and stuff like that. Occasional more interesting project. And I was getting married and it made sense that I would design my own stationery. Just thought, I really enjoyed this, and I'm at an age where all my friends are possibly going to start thinking about getting married, and maybe it's something that I could do on the side alongside my sort of agency job. It wasn't competing with what I did in my day job, and I thought it could be a bit of fun, a bit of prettiness. So I created this business called Lovely Designs. The word lovely came from my wedding day, where everyone was like, oh, this is so lovely and what a lovely day and da 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 da. And I just thought, oh, it's very appropriate for the wedding market. And then fast forward a few years, and then things were sort of changing in my sort of day job, and it was time to move on. And I was looking at working full time for myself. And this was back in January 2016, I think it was, where I decided I was working for myself, and I was really umming and ahhing. Do I keep Lovely? Do I rename it something else? Is Lovely too fluffy or pretty and stuff like that? So I ended up deciding to keep it, and I thought, well, let's figure it out as I go. So I continued to sort of evolved it over time, and it came to about, I think it was a couple of years ago now, that I then relaunched again, but as Lovely Evolution. And that was because I wanted to work with slightly more established business owners. And I'd done a couple of projects, branding projects, where sometimes it was just a few small tweaks and sometimes it was a rebrand, but it was staying true to the kind of original design aesthetic of that logo. In fact, a fellow business community member, Ashish from Web Alliance, was that kind of turning point of made me kind of think, oh, maybe there's something in it. But it took me a while of sitting on that idea and then, taking that time to rebrand myself. So ironically enough, after rebranding as Lovely Evolution, I then got onto the camp of Canva and sort of kind of went off on that tangent. So hey ho, who knows like what goes on.
So say a little bit more about that then, because you've now sort of like coined the hashtag Canvagirl. So
you were the one who was banding that about, so I thought it was only fair that I'd bring that in as a nod to you. I mean, I found out about Canva about 2017. Canva's been going a lot longer than that, but that was when I first heard about it, and sort of I just thought there was a real mileage in this, free, and you could pay for it as well, but I just liked that it meant that I could create some logo design and create some designs ordinarily that I would use in other software, but then the client then can't update that if it's a price list or if it's a business card and they want to add another employee onto it, or social media and stuff like that. And I just thought, wow, okay, well, if I create it and then can create these templates that then either the client, or if they work with a VA, can make sure that what they're doing is consistent, it's well designed, but using a tool that's easy to use, that they can kind of be in control and work with themselves.
Okay. Now you created quite a lot of content around Canva and creating certain things and using the tools in there. So and you sort of give a fair bit of that away. How do people get access to that?
So the main thing to do is to join my free Facebook group. It's called Lovely Canva Crew. So I've been sort of sharing tips in there. This year is about sort of bringing a bit more of the branding and design element, sort of just trying to shift it, because as much as people tend to kind of come to Canva, to the group because of Canva, or, you know, I see Canva as that kind of quick win of like people, you know, have heard of it mostly now. It's a lot more widely used. So it's that quick win for me, but actually fundamentally I'm all about branding and design, and Canva just happens to be a tool. So I'm going to be addressing that over the kind of coming months, of trying to make sure that people get that kind of branding goodness in there and trying to understand how to use Canva better from that context. But join the group, be part of the crew.
You should maybe write a book about it. What do you think?
I am just about to write a book. It's a leading question there.
It's a little bit of a leading question. How am I doing?
Very, very good. Would you like me to talk a bit more about my new book?
Talk a little bit about that, yes, please.
Okay. So I got approached earlier this year, I think it was in February, via LinkedIn, from a publisher. They're called Pact Publishing, and they specialize in kind of manuals on like how to use a very specific program or sort of coding. It's very kind of specific. And they approached me and said, would I be interested in writing this book on Canva? And initially I thought I'd be sort of a contributor, a bit like with the business communities book, that I'd write a chapter or something like that. And had the initial conversation, they said, no, we want you to write it. And I kind of went, oh, okay then. And I just thought about it and went, okay, this is such a massive opportunity. I'm being invited to write this book. The context of it is really great. Did some research and was like, there isn't anything up to date or, you know, to the level of that I want to share. And so I've been busy writing the book outline, and we're sort of very close to signing contracts and getting my first portion of my advance. And yeah, by the end of this year, I shall be a published author. And it's really exciting. It will be another way for people to access my knowledge, because it's all very well sort of watching a video, even if it's one of my kind of free like little demos that I do in my group, or, you know, in some of my more like training options and stuff. But sometimes people want to just read through or skip to that section that they're kind of struggling with and kind of read a sort of more step by step. So I think it will help a lot of people and fit in really well with sort of kind of the future of like the programs that I'm launching and tinkering with coming soon.
I'm pretty sure it was the hashtag Canvagirl that got you the opportunity. So I'm looking forward to the royalties when you're famous.
Well, you know, you can look forward to it all you like.
Thanks, I get the message. Okay, so on these sessions, I ask people what their why is. So, you know, that there's something that drives you, that gets you out of bed in the morning. I know it's not just your son probably trying to wake you up, but what drives you to do what you do in the design world?
I just love being creative. In the context of sort of rebranding with a sort of a logo that's already out there but needs refreshing. I love that challenge of figuring out, you know, with the client, you know, what elements are we keeping, you know, what are we sort of honouring and moving forward, and what can be kind of, you know, left behind. And it can be, I think people don't realise how much of a massive impact having a really good brand can be on their business, because it really gives them that clarity in what they're doing, as well as getting their message across and hopefully improving profits, etc. But it's it's that kind of something out of nothing, and I really love collaborating with my clients. So I've definitely shifted the way I work with my clients. So I have that kind of, I'm doing it usually on Zoom, and I'm sharing my screen, so they get to see what I'm doing. It's really involved, and you know, I don't know, I just get so passionate about it because people can sort of like have that aha moment, and they can feel involved with it because of this process of the way I'm working. I just get really energized when I'm training on it or creating something with a client. So I love it.
Excellent. Little nod from one of your fellow designers there.
Oh.
Apparently you're his most trusted Canva guru, so thanks for that, Mark. Oops, he's put another one now.
He'll get the hang of the hashtag.
He needs to go hashtags first, I think, Mark. Anyway, so okay, I totally get that. So there's other graphic designers out there. I guess, you know, a student freshly out of university studying graphic design can all of a sudden become a logo designer stroke branding expert. Not necessarily my view, but hey, that's how it goes. So what makes you different from your competitors? Why would someone choose you?
Well, I think in my kind of more local network, I think I'm the only one who's really jumped on Canva and combining the process together of, as I said, using branding and design, but with, you know, partnering up with using Canva. In terms of, I guess I've also got my years of experience, so I'd like to think I know what I'm doing. You know, I've been doing this for 16 years, and I think, you know, it's all about the rapport between sort of myself and the client. So I think it's, you know, I know a few other fellow designers, and I'm more than happy to sort of say, okay, well, I think we're not a good fit, but what about speaking to so and so and so and so? So I think I know in myself sort of where I sit and what I do. But it's, I guess the sort of differentiator is that kind of combining branding with the practical elements of Canva, so that they can kind of really crack on and do stuff, you know, make sure that their branding is consistent and get on with it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, but back to your passion and what sort of like drives you. I know from, you know, using graphic designers before, I'm quite crap at giving a specification for what I want. So it's like, you know, and you must get that, you know, someone just comes, you know, I want a leaflet, and that's pretty much the spec. So
Yeah.
you know, what's your creative process then? How do you draw out the concept or the ideas from the client in order that you can put something effectively on, starting with a blank canvas? How do you go about that?
So I have a logo questionnaire, which if we're doing a branding project together, then it's very much sort of finding out the core, you know, nitty gritty of like, what is their new logo name and then brand name. You know, do they have a strap line? I also ask things about, you know, what do they like visually, like what other logos do they like, get them to look at their competitors and sort of, and give me a list of their competitors. But I also have started doing sort of a kind of prep session together, where we take those elements from, you know, this logo questionnaire and kind of look at developing that further, because it's a very kind of visual language. When it comes to sort of a more general design thing, again, because I'm working more in a kind of one-to-one method, it's very much, we can ask those questions and can go, well, what about this, or what about that, and sort of a bit like an optician, so you like this one or this one. So it's a lot more instant in that regards. I mean, I do occasionally do sort of, you know, get briefed on things and then go away and do it, but certainly I'm finding that it's much more beneficial to the client to be able to work with them, so they get to see their kind of what's in their brain take shape, and kind of it can, you know, be visualized before their very eyes.
I know my little Canva adventures, because obviously, through your training and through your guidance, I have a little stab at certain things, and it certainly is quite difficult when you just open up, a blank design. I know Canva's quite good because it's got templates. That's quite useful sometimes to give a starting point. But yeah, it can be quite difficult to get inspiration. But what I find is once you either take a template from Canva or look at something else you've done and sort of build it on there, then it starts to become a little bit easier. But even then, you kindly sort of like supported me with an ad I did recently. It's just the little tweaks that you see through a graphic designer's eyes that don't even occur to me, off the top of my head, like line spacing and putting a little shadow here and then maybe changing that color and all those little things. So it's that is your, certainly your contribution over the years of experience you got, because I just wouldn't even think of those things generally.
And I think that's something that you can learn over time, whether you plan to be a designer or not. But this is things that I've picked up through, creating stuff. When I've worked in agencies, there's been a little bit more kind of, I've received that feedback from, the higher ups or other team members. So like, I haven't come out the womb going, oh, I need to line this up. I've learned this skill. This is something I have always enjoyed, being creative. And I always knew that I wanted to be doing something creative as as my job. But certainly when I was growing up, I didn't think, oh, I'm going to be, a branding designer specializes in Canva. You just don't know. But I definitely believe you can develop an eye for design that, yes, starting with the templates are great, but even within the templates, in Canva or any other templates that you can get, for other programs, sometimes you can pick things apart. And once you start using it as well, you're kind of moving away from this design that's been created. So you can kind of put yourself on track by bringing in some key principles of like, okay, line this up and doing that. So, it means that hopefully sort of the comments that I've given with your ad, that you can kind of use those principles with other things that you create in the future. You might forget a couple, it takes the time to kind of bed that in.
Yeah. So in terms of like an ideal client for you, do you have an ideal client? Do you have like a target market that you prefer to work with, or any industry sector that you prefer to work with?
Yes, it does depend a little bit on the type of project. So for the kind of Canva training and stuff, like the membership and my program, it's a little bit more broad. So those people that are using Canva in a broad sense. Virtual assistants are particularly good for me because they are using Canva but are not necessarily coming from a design background, and they're being asked to do so much. Can you just do this and can you just do that? And they're not necessarily going to give their clients the best results if they don't understand some of the core principles that I teach about branding and that being consistent, etc. When it comes to branding, I'm looking for more established businesses, so going sort of at least 1 or 2 years, and they may have sort of created something themselves. It could have been done in Canva, or they've hired someone on Fiverr and stuff, and it's a bit DIY, maybe not so great, and they're ready to invest in a professionally designed logo and brand. It could be a business that's been going kind of a lot longer and they want to have a bit of a refresh. A lot of businesses have pivoted over the last year. And so it's a really great time to really kind of take a step back and go, okay, well, where is the business going? That's the past, but maybe they've changed how they've worked, who they're working with, and they may not have considered whether their kind of logo and sort of message is still appealing to their ideal client. So having a rebrand, whether it's small tweaks or a complete overhaul, can be massively powerful to get that business on track. But generally speaking, I work with sort of a lot of I guess the term solopreneurs, so people who are kind of maybe one-man bands or their own business, and they're maybe doing quite a lot of things themselves. They for various reasons, they might be liking to be, they might like being creative and in control, and so they might have the the finances to outsource, but actually they really enjoy creating stuff in Canva and don't want to. Or it could be a budget thing where they're sort of still in that I need to do everything myself mode, or they're just a much smaller business, and keeping things in-house.
Okay, at the time of recording this, I guess we're just coming out of hopefully lockdown 3.0, if that's what it's called. It's been a big challenge for a lot of businesses in the last sort of like year or so. Outside of that, on your business journey, what would you say is the biggest challenge that you've faced?
So not including the pandemic, do you mean? Okay.
Yeah, outside the pandemic, yeah.
I think it's been sort of knowing that what I'm doing is working. So actually, Mark Costa, if he's still kind of watching this, he was kind of acting like an unofficial mentor, or at least that's how I saw him, because he's been in business a couple of years longer than me in terms of when I sort of refocused to sort of more general design, moving away from the wedding stuff. And yeah, there's been times when I'm like, am I going to get the business in? It's getting established clients, pricing and stuff like that. I think overall, through the journey, and particularly even more so during what we've experienced in the pandemic, I think that my mindset has been the biggest thing. So if I've got if my mental health and like my motivation is high, then I feel like I can kind of tackle things, I can get on with things. But I've experienced quite a kind of low mood at times in my business where I'm like, what am I doing? Should I just pack this all in and just get a job? And so I have experienced different levels of trying different things out. I think the biggest learning has been investing in coaching and having that support. So I've experienced group coaching with yourself and other people, and I think that's been the massive difference to being able to go, oh, okay, I'm not in this alone. Even like chatting with like Mark, and when I've still relatively new to the business community, and was like, oh my god, it's approaching Christmas and I don't know where business is going to come in, and it's kind of that whole it's okay, I've experienced times like that as well.
Okay, so you mentioned the coaching, mentoring. How important has that been to you in terms of sort of helping guide your business and maybe support you through those swings that you get in business?
Yeah, absolutely massive. Yeah, I definitely think if I hadn't invested in coaching and really looking at how I can grow my business, or how do I want to shape my business going further, I probably would have not evolved things and tried things. I certainly wouldn't have tried the membership model. I probably wouldn't be looking at, I launched a program and now sort of looking ahead at, what's going to happen with this program, how can I grow it so I'm not limited by numbers and stuff like that. And I wouldn't be able to necessarily have considered all of that if I hadn't had that, that I hadn't invested in that sort of outside point of view.
Okay. So you've kindly said that you're going to share some of your years of experience with us. So I'm going to put you in solo mode in a minute and just sort of like hand over the floor to you. I think you're going to give us some branding advice, I think you said earlier, if my memory serves me correctly. So let me just put you in solo mode, and the floor is yours.
Okay, so I wanted to talk all about how branding is a real balancing act between making sure that things are consistent, but also that things are evolving over time. So what I mean by consistency is making sure that what you're putting out there, whether it's a flyer, your social media, and that's on your different platforms, your website, that things is looking consistent. Like the colors used, the version of your logo, is it an up-to-date logo, if you have changed it over time, and making sure things like your fonts are matching up. And because if you don't do that, what can happen is that, particularly on social media, as people are scrolling through, it can, if you're using this font, and it's something I see quite a lot with people either new to Canva or not understanding that they need to be updating and tweaking and customizing that template. It just means that it's, you can spot a mile off, oh, that's just a Canva template and they've not done a thing with it. But you're really missing a trick by not using your, proper brand colors, because people will be scrolling through and they'll see, at a glance, okay, that's the business community, because those colors are used, and the icon part, the logo is used. So it really helps reinforce, and it means that people will be stopping to take a look and go, oh, actually, I like the content that Paul puts out, and maybe not so much the Friday Funny. That can be a bit hit and miss. But you've got that, that brand recognition, that if people like your content, they're going to stop and take a look. But also, if someone goes on your LinkedIn profile, on your Facebook, that it matches up, that it's not, oh, what's going on here? So you need to have that consistency with the messaging and all of that. However, you also need to be able to kind of stay up to date. If you need to make changes in your business, so, is your target market changing? Have you changed the way you are working with your clients? Are the products and services, have they changed? And making sure that you update that, if you're changing that over time. So it's looking at different points of your business, and like you would with a doing a business plan, in theory you should be looking at it every so often and reviewing what's working and what's not, and updating it. The same can be said for your brand, and looking at how you're communicating what you do, and if it's not aligned, if it's not right, then it is worth considering having a rebrand. But I'm not suggesting that you would have a rebrand like every 5 minutes. And that's where that balancing act comes in, of making sure that you're consistent, but you need to have that flexibility to move forward with your business, and making sure that you're really getting the right message across. So that's me.
Oh, just took you straight out of the stream then, rather. Okay, thanks for that. I mean, I think I've been more conscious, I guess, of branding and brand color since I went through the rebranding February last year. I think it does make you more conscious of, because you guys put together like I don't know what you call it, like a branding pack or whatever. What's the quite? Right.
So it's usually called brand guidelines.
Yeah, brand guidelines. Yeah. So that sort of thing, where it sort of like gives you the main colors that you use and the font that you use and what you can and can't do, and all sorts of things like that is really, really useful. So I'm much more conscious of that now. Even the background, the blue background here to the ticker tape is my brand blue. And I know, you've noticed things when I've done stuff on Canva that, maybe the blue isn't on brand. So, you've spotted that sort of thing. So it's really worth, people being conscious of that. On that subject, how important do you think, particularly when you're a new business, how important do you think people consider a logo or their brand when they start off?
I think when people are very starting out, I guess it depends on what kind of business they are. If they're kind of a hobby business versus they've got big dreams and goals, and they're more of in that entrepreneur mindset. I guess the thing is when you are starting out, budget is such a factor that it's sort of looking at, well, what's the most important thing? And so, that having a professionally designed logo can be further down the kind of pecking order. So I guess it is a case of, well, use what resources you have. So if it means doing a DIY one in Canva, then so be it. But just do the best you can. But know that somewhere down the line that you'll have a better idea of where you're going forward, and then investing. If you can invest in it right at the beginning, you are going to, be, ahead of the game. You're in a much stronger position. But it's really down to the individual, and also just sort of what your budget is can vary. And what different designers offer. There's so many different ways of commissioning a logo, and they have their kind of pros and cons.
Okay, final question for you, you might be glad to know, is given your experience as a small business owner, and if you were to give a top tip for any other small business owner out there, what would that top tip be?
I would say if you're struggling, reach out and get some support. It doesn't necessarily have to be coaching per se. It doesn't necessarily be you have to go out and invest in a coach or coaching group. But I would say reach out to those that in your network that you trust their opinion and feel that you can open up and be a bit more vulnerable. It's something that I have done in the past, and it's been really helpful to be able to offload that, and get their advice and get that kind of different point of view. So whether it is someone who's in the same or similar industry, or just like I said, someone that has been in business for a lot longer than you, that you feel that they may have seen and done it a lot more, and can give you some good advice, or again, it's just that, like any problem, if you're able to talk it out, it becomes not as big. You're able to look at it with a bit more clarity. So reaching out for help, you're not in it alone. And I think that's the power of being in a really strong networking and support group like the business community, because there is a sort of wealth of people looking out for each other.
It's a good point. You're absolutely right. Yes, you can go and pay for that kind of support through a business advisor or coach, but I think there are people out there that, to use a well-worn phrase, can be a shoulder to cry on when you need it, or an ear to bend when you need it. And I think that's been useful for me. I've had my people that I go to, when I'm stuck or pissed off or whatever it might be, and that sometimes just having someone just to listen to your problems can be beneficial. So yeah, a network is a good place to find those people. So anybody listening to this that either can't afford or whatever, doesn't want to invest in a paid for coach, please go and find somebody, because it can be quite lonely sort of running a business on your own, but just having someone that may be a little bit more established, so you're not going to make the same mistakes, I think can be invaluable to keeping your business going. So your ordeal is over, ML, you might be glad to hear. So thank you for coming along this morning, and thanks for sharing your business journey, your insights into branding.
Thank you for having me.